Alright, family, welcome back. So, we're reading the awesome book of the American Indian, indigenous peoples of America, myths and legends. Then would have been religion, right? But they also had their own legends, even separate from what they took as to be religious. So, this is from the Sioux tribe, and the title is A Legend of Devil's Tower. Woo. This is another characteristically tongue in cheek tale from Lame Deer. And Lame Deer has been, throughout this book, hilarious. So I bet this story is going to be great as well. Okay, page 225. Out of the plains of Wyoming rises Devil's Tower. It is really a rock, visible for 100 miles round, an immense cone of basalt which seems to touch the clouds. It sticks out of the flat prairie as if someone had pushed it up from underground. Of course, Devil's Tower is a white man's name. We have no devil in our beliefs, and got along well all these many centuries without him. we got oh my gosh, many centuries. You people invented the devil, and as far as I'm concerned, you can keep him. But everybody these days knows that towering rock by this name. So Devil Tower it is. See his personality, man. Dang, this guy probably would have been so cool if you hung out with him, had some coffee with this guy. No use telling you its Indian name. You see, he's so sassy. He's just like, that's a personality. See, the difference with these Native American storytellers is like they got this way of rhetoric that you just draws you in. I hope I can be the same when I'm old, God willing, and I have all these grandchildren. Hopefully, I do. I can be telling them stories too and have the same kind of punch to it. Most tribes call it Bear Rock. There is a reason for that. If you see it, you will notice on its sheer sides many, many streaks and gashes running straight up and down, like scratches made by giant claws. Well, long, long ago, two young Indian boys found themselves lost in the prairie. You know how it is. They had played shiny ball and whacked it a few 100 yards out of the village, and then they had shot their toy bows still farther out in the sagebrush. And then they had heard a small animal make a noise and had gone to investigate. They had come to a stream with many colorful pebbles, and followed that for a while. They had come to a hill and wanted to see what was on the other side. On the other side they saw a herd of antelope, and of course had to track them for a while. When they got hungry and thought it was time to go home, the two boys found that they didn't know where they were. They started off in the direction where they thought their village was, but only got farther and farther away from it. At last they curled up beneath a tree and went to sleep. They got up the next morning and walked some more, still headed the wrong way. They ate some wild berries and dug up wild turnips, found some choke cherries, and drank water from the streams. Dang, man, back in those days you could drink out the water. Now you'd probably get a horrible parasite. For 3 days they walked towards the west. They were footsore, but they survived. Oh, how they wished that their parents, or aunts and uncles, or elder brothers and sisters would find them. But nobody did. On the fourth day, the boys suddenly had a feeling that they were being followed. They looked around and in the distance saw Mato. Okay, Mato. The bear. This was no ordinary bear, but a giant grizzly, so huge that the two boys would make only a small mouthful for him. But he had smelled the boys and wanted that mouthful. He kept coming close, and the earth trembled as he gathered speed. Man, if I see a grizzly bear coming, woo! The boys started running, looking for a place to hide. But there was no such place, and the grizzly was much, much faster than they. They stumbled, and the bear was almost upon them. They could see his red, wide open jaws, full of enormous wicked teeth. They could smell his hot, evil breath. The boys were old enough to have learned to pray, and they called upon Wakantanka, the creator. Tunkashila, grandfather, have pity, save us. Notice that the creator is like a grandfather. Native Americans had a lot of respect for their elders, man. All at once the earth shook and began to rise. The boys rose with it. I see the ground, and it shuts up when they're on top. Out of the earth came a cone of rock going up, up, up until it was more than 1,000 feet high, and the boys were on top of it. Mato the bear was disappointed to see his meal disappearing into the clouds. Have I said he was a giant bear? This grizzly was so huge that he could almost reach the top of the rock when he stood on his hind legs. Almost, but not quite. His claws were as large as a teepee's lodge poles. Frantically, Mato dug his claws into the side of the rock, trying to get up, trying to get those boys. As he did so, he made big scratches in the sides of the towering rock. But the stone was too slippery. Mato could not get up. He tried every spot, every side. He scratched up the rock all around, but it was no use. The boys watched him wearing himself out, getting tired, giving up. They finally saw him going away, a huge, growling, grunting mountain of fur disappearing over the horizon. The boys were saved. Or were they? How were they to get down? They were humans, not birds who could fly. Some 10 years ago, mountain climbers tried to conquer Devil's Tower. They had ropes and iron hooks, called pitons to nail themselves to the rock surface, and they managed to get up, but they couldn't get down. They were marooned on that giant basalt cone, and they had to be taken off in a helicopter. In the long ago days, the Indians had no helicopters, so how did the two boys get down? The legend does not tell us, but we can be sure that the Great Spirit didn't save those boys only to let them perish of hunger and thirst on top of the rock. Well, Wanbli the eagle had always been a friend to our people, so it must have been the eagle that let the boys grab hold of him and carried them safely back to their village. Or do you know another way? Told by Lame Deer in Winter Rosebud Sioux Indian Reservation, South Dakota, 1969, and recorded by Richard Erdos. I think he's one of my favorites. Lame Deer, like, even though I don't even know what he looks like, reading his stories, like, it's just so, it's just there. And Wanbli the eagle, huh? He has always been a friend to our people. That's amazing. Oh, Tunkashila. Grandfather, have pity, save us. Man, I love this story. I'm gonna put a star next to this one. Lame Deer's always got the great stories, man.